Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up the CI/CD pipeline from the scratch to Azure DevOps repository, and we will be able to build an image using the Docker configuration and push that automatically to the Azure Container Registry, and after that we will set up the release pipeline to automatically deploy the latest image version to our Azure App Service. And I will be using the existing two applications that we will be seeing for the last couple of videos, and which is nothing but the Task Manager API and the Task Manager Web App. Come, let's get started. Alright, so you see there is this application that we were discussing in the last couple of things. So we have a Docker file, and the Docker file has the information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split these two applications into two different repositories. So I will be creating the repository under my Learn Smart Coding login. So here's the first one, right? So we have a task manager.api. I'm going to clone this, like I'm going to do everything from scratch, like as if the first time doing this. So this is my code which is present in this folder. So what I will do is I will open up this folder using this way. If I do a cmd of exe, it will open up that folder into my command prompt. Okay, now here the first thing that we will do is git init. We will initialize the git, and then what we will do is we will add the new GitHub repository remote origin to this folder, so that I will be able to push all my stuff, local information into the repository. So in order to do that, I'll be using the next command called git remote add origin, that followed by the origin name. Git add space dot will add every single file that is there inside the folder. Everything is added, and you see this green color, that's the one that you will see when you do a git status. Now these are the new files, that's why it's green color, right? So very first time. So what we will do next is we will do this git branch and do to the new branch, like we will push all this content to a new future branch called features loss initially, or maybe initial code. Probably that will be the good name of the branch. So I created it. I'm going to push all this code to this branch. Then later we will do a pull request and merge the code. Okay, if you have not seen this, how it is happening, this is how the new code will be pushed to the repository, whether it is a GitHub or DevOps or anything. This is the way, right? So once I do this commit, git commit -m states for the message, and in the double quotes you put the message, and then git push origin head. That's it. Every single code has reached this location, and it also showed me a pull request is ready. So I'm going to create a pull request, merge it to the main branch, and keep the branches clean. I deleted whatever the feature branch was there. Now it's just the main branch, right? So similarly we will do this to the web app also, and push it to a new repository called taskmanager.webapp. Okay, all right. Now our main branch has the code. Okay, now this one is the one which has the Docker file also. So now what we are going to do is we will quickly create a web app. So in order to create an Azure Web App service, so here you go, you create a web app in the Azure portal and start filling up this information. So here the subscription, the resource group, I'm using the existing resource group, and the name of the website should be unique. It should start with your name, I mean the application name, and then followed by it will be azurewebsites.net. So in our case, I'm going to put this as LSC Task Manager API. Alright, so I'm going to use the free version. Like I said, most of the stuff are free in Azure. You can just need to use it. I'm going to use the F1 tier. For this demo, this is more than enough. Now this is important. We choose the Linux as the container, and the container as a solution. The Linux is the OS version. The next version, the next tab is the Docker one. If you leave as is, it is the default Docker version is deployed from Microsoft, and you will see how it looks. Later we will use the CI/CD pipeline to deploy it through the pipelines. Now all these things are like as usual, the regular one, so as and when it is getting deployed, what we will do, we will be able to launch that application, and this is what happens, right? So this is the default version that is done. Now the one that you're seeing on my screen is the container registry cost. Okay, so when you create a container registry in Azure, this is the cost that will incur. There are three types: the basic, standard, and the premium. We will go with basic because it's the least amount of price per day, and 10 gigabyte is more than enough for us for our demo. So I'm gonna go and create a container registry. So what we will do is we will search for container registry, and you will end up going to the Azure Container Registry. Click on create container registry. So in this case, I'm going to put all the resource into the same resource group, so later I can delete it if I don't want. And the resource group is the docker demo rg, and here this is important, instance details, right? So registry name, you remember it has to be unique, and it will be you see this learn smart coding, which was already taken by myself on a different account. So I will choose this as learn smart coding ACR, or maybe something meaningful as CR, right? CR means container registry. Now that will be the name of the registry. Okay, and then location is East US, and then rest of the stuff I'm going to leave it as it is. For a basic version, you don't have much options to modify it. Anyway, we create this thing, and then a few moments it will be done. You land here. This is the overview blade. And if you go to the access key, right, as I spoke in one of the video, this is the admin credential, and under the repository you will end up creating a repository and the image tag here, which we will do through the CI pipeline. Now there's another thing called access control. Okay, so we will be doing the access control, so stay for a second. So now let's come back to our DevOps login, and then click on this new pipeline and start choosing whatever the application repository. And here the second one is the Docker version. So once you choose the Docker version, it will realize that you have a subscription, and it started showing me the subscription. So I will choose that, and I will click on continue. So once I do this, it will ask me to re-authenticate. Okay, I will re-authenticate with my credential. It is going to send me some notification using the Microsoft Authenticator. So once I choose this, you see this container registry started loading up here, and then the image name, right? So image name, we will name it as Task Manager API. This, remember, whatever setting up here will be the repository name that will be created. So the image name is Task Manager API, and it is now analyzing the project and the Docker file that we have, and it is trying to generate the YAML file for us. Very good, no? I don't need to do much of the information, so it only triggered. So now if you look at this file, it says the trigger criteria is main branch, and then it has a bunch of variables, the service connection, the image repository, all this container name. So if you look at this container name, right, this is the container name that was automatically invoked, learn smart coding cr.azure cr.io. Now the build will be the build tag ID, which will be incremented number, and then here you will have a task, display name. This is all generated code, but trying to understand what it is doing is it is doing a build of a Docker file that is there in the project. This YAML file is just pick up the Docker file, and Docker file have information about how to pull the base image, how to get these packages installed, how to generate an image, how to tag it, all those things, right? It will do. Once we have the image ready, this CI pipeline will be able to get this image ready with the tag. Okay, the build number, see, this is the build number, and if you remember when we set up, we did a Task Manager API. That's the repository name, and then it has created a build and pushed it. Great. It was so easy, right? As and when the code changes, it will trigger automatically, and finally it will be able to push the built image with the new tag number and put it into the container registry. Now what I'm going to show you here is I'm going to go to one of my class files and going to do an edit. Okay, do not do this. I'm just showing this to quickly tell you that any changes that happens on this main branch, right, will automatically do a CI trigger. See, the commit has happened on the main branch, okay, on the program.cs file. This is not the readme file or any other file. Because of that, the CI pipeline should have got triggered automatically. So let's click on the pipelines. So there's a branch. See, it's already, the status is showing us in progress. If we go to pipeline, the pipeline that we created started showing up the second one, and the build is automatically happening. If you remember, 23 was the build number, and ideally we should expect the next build number as 24. Unless there is some other builders running in my project. But anyway, we'll wait for a few more minutes while this comes. Let's go to this LSC Task Manager API, and under the deployment center, what I'm going to do is whatever I did, I'm going to disconnect and show you as it was a fresh one. Okay, so this is how it looks when you do it. So right now it is container registry. Now what we are going to do here is we are not going to touch anything here. Okay, like I said, we need to have the managed identity. Admin credential is really not safe to use it. It has more privileges. We should not do it. So we are going to see how to create the managed identity for our CI/CD pipelines so that it has access to modify the container configuration. The release pipeline should have access, right? So what we will do is we will disable this go to access key and disable this admin access. Okay, then in the search box, search on managed identities. You will end up here. See, I have already a managed entity, but let's create a new one. And here I'm going to choose the existing group. So all the resources are grouped together, and give a name here. Okay, this is just to understandable thing. See, in order for the image to be pulled from the container registry for this application, right, it should have an access ACR pull. That's the role. ACR pull is the role that it should have, so that it has access to pull the image. Okay, so let's create a name, and we will create this managed identity. We haven't given any role. The name is Learn Smart Coding CR pull image role. Okay, container registry pull image role. Now the deployment is running up. This resource is ready. Go to this resource, and to this left side there is something called access control IAM. Click on the add role assignment. Here you can come and search ACR pull. ACR pull is one of the role. Either you can go or click on Azure role assignment and click on add role preview. This is a new one, and choose this resource group subscription, and then here ACR pull. Pick up the role name and do a save. What we are doing is the managed identity, we have assigned a role. Okay, the reason I showed you assigned role even though it is in the preview is by the time you look at this video, they will all become a generally availability. Now it is very clear that this one, Learn Smart Coding CR pull image role, has a role called this one. Now let's go to IAM and select this. See this, the one which we already assigned is already showing up. Alright, so the role is good. So the managed entity which we have created have assigned a role which has access to pull the image from the Azure Container Registry. So for good. Now we will use this managed identity to go and configure in our deployment center. Let's go to this LSC Task Manager API, and what we are going to do is we will go to this identity user assigned one and click on add and select the one that you created it. Okay, so once you select and do an add, what will happen, this web app has an access to this managed identity. Okay, so now it's all configured. Now what will happen, if you go to deployment center and choose the managed identity, it will start showing up all the managed identity that belongs to this web app. So in our case, the one that we have is Learn Smart Coding CR. So once we choose this managed identity and then do the build image and tag. Okay, so once you do these two things, you can save it. So I'm just going to put the tag number as 31 because a lot of builds has run and 31 is the latest build. So let's do a save. Okay, we are not using the admin credential, we managed to use the managed entity. This is a one-time thing. Once you do a save, forget it. Now let's see how to build a release pipeline. Come to this DevOps, go to the pipeline and click on release. Okay, once you click on release to this So click on new and you will end up creating a new release pipeline. Now pay attention here. Initially, whatever task that we want is not coming up here. For me, it didn't come up. Most likely it won't come up for you. So if you start searching something called container, nothing shows up, right? So just click on one of the tasks which is already there, one of the feature which is already there, and later I will show you how to change it. What will be the final one to choose it, right? So I will choose Azure App Service Deployment and do an apply, or yeah, just pick up whatever you want for the first time. So I will choose this Azure App Service Deployment and do an apply. We will change this shortly. So go to this task, and on this task, right, under the run on agent, there is something called a plus button. Okay, so when we're going to create a new task here and delete the one that we choose there, I don't know, for some reason it's not coming up during the first one. So click on add now and choose and search called container. When you search on container, there is something called Azure Container Apps Deploy. This is the task that we want. So Azure Web App for container is the task that we want. I chose it and I'm going to delete the one which was already there because we don't need it. Here, display name is fine, and choose the subscription that you wanted here, and then the app name. Automatically the app name, web app name with the container one will come. If you have more than one container web app, it will show up here. Now the next thing is we need to provide the container name slash, the configuration that we did to push it, right? We will use this login server, the name of the login server, just learn smart coding cr.azure.io slash repository name. Repository name, if you remember, if you go to repository, this is the repository name that was created using the CI pipeline. So task manager API. So we will use task manager API and then colon. Here we will not do a hard coding. The build number is the one that is pushed as a tag into the registry. So we will use $build.build ID. Whenever the new build is configured, that build ID was the tag number that will be used to deploy it. Now we will change the stage as staging. You can give the name whatever you want. Go to pipeline. The next one is adding the artifact. Click on add artifacts, do a build, choose the project and choose the one that was the CI pipeline name. Our CI pipeline name was taskmanager.api. I chose it, and here click on this and do an enable. This is called continuous deployment. Whenever the new build is available, a new release will get automatically triggered. Now bare minimum setup is done. We will name this release pipeline meaningful task manager API release. So like a stage release, okay, or a stage environment. You can name it whatever you want. So under that there will be a new folder that I wanted to create. So task manager API, under task manager API, this release pipeline will be created. So say okay, and then we should be okay, and then this is all saved. Let's go to release. Okay, click on the release. You see this, there is nothing created. I'm going to trigger a new build, and you will see as soon as the build is available, the release pipeline gets triggered. Now click on new. Now click on the task manager one and do a run pipeline. So if you do a run pipeline, this is that you are manually triggering a build. But like I showed you, if there is any code change happens, this CI pipeline gets triggered automatically. And whenever the CI pipeline is triggered automatically and the build is available, the artifact is available, you see this, the new release got triggered. And in the staging, and once you click on the logs, if you want to set up the approval, you can set up that in the pipeline. I've showed in one of my video. But this case, as soon as the build is available, what this is going to do is, it is going to take this number. You see this, learn smart coding cr.io slash the repository name and the build number, and this pipeline is connected to the web app of the container, like LSC task manager API. That's the website that was configured, right? So it will go to this deployment center and it will update the version. Once it updates the version, the container will automatically start pulling up the new image, because it was like you going to the deployment center and manually changing, right? That is what the release pipeline is doing. The only thing that it will do is it will go and change the number. As soon as the number is changed and saved it, the container will start pulling up the image, and you can see that through the live stream called log stream under the monitoring section. As soon as the release pipeline is doing this, you can see here number 34 should come here, right? 34 was the last number that was triggered, I believe. So 34 should come here. This is one of the things that you can notice under the monitoring section. Log stream, that's the live stream that is giving you information. So what I'm going to find out here is 34. Let's see where it is. Okay, that's only in one place. Let's scroll down and do a refresh. Okay, so this is successful. I can see that, and let's reconnect. Alright, it's coming down, and you see this, the new image was built, and it also says it is ready for serving any request. Alright, we can see that. If you go to deployment center, it will change like this, because right now it's connected to the release pipeline, so no more it will show you that unless you disconnect. Now all the CI/CD pipeline has been set up here. Both looks good. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video, and you know now how to set up the CI/CD pipeline, even for the Docker images to be built and deployed to the Azure Container Registry. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more tech tutorials. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified when we post new videos. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Happy coding!